Joining us now, Washington Post reporter David Finkel. He's also a writer. His latest book is called The Good Soldiers. And David did something that most writers don't, most people don't. Spent the better part of a year, perhaps more than a year, embedded with an infantry division, the infantry battalion, the 216, in Baghdad, in Iraq, after the surge. And David has written about that year without political agenda, just the lives of those soldiers after the surge. And David joins us now. David, welcome to the show.
Hi, Ben.
Did I correctly summarize what this book is? It's not about whether the surge was a good idea or a bad idea or anything like that. It's just about what it was for these guys in the 216
that's
Second
pretty good.
Battalion.
One of the reviews of the book that came out when the book first came out, there was a review that said something along the lines of, "You can take this book down from the shelf years from now and think this is what it was. This is how it felt." And that's what I was trying to get across, what it was like during the surge, during this kind of last-ditch moment of the Iraq War, to one day be a 19-year-old in Fort Riley, Kansas, and the next day you're in the middle of a bad place in East Baghdad, learning what war turns out to be.
Could read my own notes there. You were there for 8 months, not a year, although that's a remarkable amount of time to be embedded with a battalion unit on the front lines. I mean, at the risk of asking one of the most cliched questions of all time, but I mean, what was that like? What was that like personally?
Well, the luck of the draw, these guys were dropped into a pretty rough area in East Baghdad. This was in early 2007. Seems like a long time ago at this point, but it's still pretty fresh to me, and of course to every one of the 800 soldiers in this infantry battalion. It turned out to be a rough place. It was a Shiite area that was largely uncontrolled at that point. Roadside bombs were everywhere, and the more important point isn't what it was like for me, it was what it was like for these guys. I was with them from the beginning of their deployment to the end, 15 months. I would take occasional breaks to come back to Washington, where I lived, to do some reporting. But for the most part, it was there with them, watching what happened as they went from eager young men, anxious to be at the center of a war, into who they had become by the time they came home, which was wounded, often degraded, and certainly knowing that war is nothing to be eager about.
What degraded? What does that mean? Degraded how?
Well, physically and mentally and psychologically. I guess the way to say it is they really thought that if they did everything right, they were going to be just fine. And they had been there for a couple of months in East Baghdad, and things had been going their way. And then they had their first KIA, their first killed in action, and then came their second, and then came more and more legs going off and arms going off, and very serious, grievous injuries. And as the time went by, of course, that's what I mean by degraded. It's a process of going from anxious naivety to a realization of what war means.
This is probably an obvious question, but you must have known the soldiers who were killed in action.
Sure. Knew some better than others. 800 guys. It was a fairly. I mean, that's the size of a battalion. Some of the soldiers were happy to have me around, and some weren't. It took a long time to gain their trust, and I think the way that happened was simply by the fact that I didn't go away. I didn't drop in for a week and pretend to know anything. I stayed, and as bad things kept happening to them, and I was in the midst of some of those bad things, when I didn't become a problem to them, when the dust cleared and they saw that I was there taking notes or doing what I was supposed to do, that helped gain trust as well.
Along the lines only conceptually of what you said, because I've, of course, never done anything like what you've done. I don't like to pretend. Obviously, I haven't read the book. I've merely based these questions for the interview on reviews of the book.
Sure.
It's described as having some unflinching descriptions of deaths. Is that the kind of thing and it's graphic not for the sake of being graphic, but because you are in a situation where the situation is graphic and grotesque and incredibly authentic. Was that a decision that was made ahead of time, or was that just obvious as you get into this that you
No,
have
it's
to
a really good question, Ben. I have to tell you, I had no idea what was going to happen when I went there, whether they would be in an easy place or a hard place, if anything would happen at all. I took a leave from my job at the Washington Post. I went over. And at first it was fairly quiet, but then the war, I guess as wars do, it seemed to intrude, and so when it came time to write the book, after these guys left and came back to the States, and I came along as well, then it was a matter of putting as much in the book as I could to place a reader inside the lives of people they really may not think about except in the vaguest ways, but not put so much in there that it would seem to descend into, I guess the term is war porn, where you're simply putting graphic stuff down just for the sake of putting graphic stuff down. I wanted it to be a true book. It is a true book, respectful as well. The fact that the soldiers who died were survived by family members, and the ones who were wounded are going to have to live with those wounds forever.
I always fear I say this hoping to accomplish something through the transitive property of credibility, but my father was a soldier in World War II, and you know, I'm no expert nor historian, but I have a son's fascination with World War II, and as I watched, for example, Band of Brothers, which I've seen twice in its entirety, and I was struck by the need, which is something I think until you read about it or see it, and now I want to ask you about it, struck by the incredible value of leadership, which I think perhaps glossed over. Like when you're a kid, you think, why isn't the colonel out leading the troops? And the reason is because if he goes down, it creates a huge problem. And the colonel here, I want to. What's his? How do we say his name?
Ralph Koslerich, Lieutenant Colonel.
How valuable is leadership to these men, and what kind of guy is he?
Well, he was ceaselessly, relentlessly, sometimes annoyingly optimistic. It's just he wasn't going to show his more considered face to the guys underneath him. It was important to him. A value of leadership was to always move forward. He was a smart guy. I thought he was, for what I know, he was a very good leader. But there also, it works down the line. There were company leaders, there were platoon leaders, and it filters down. The thing I'm curious about, Ben, is whether your father would talk to you very much about his experiences, because in this case, I can tell you these soldiers don't want to talk to very many people about what they've been through.
Well, more and more. He's 85 now, and you get him to, but he was hesitant to, and then it's always with a matter-of-factness. He didn't go to any reunions and then started to later in life, which obviously he's in now, but and then he'd matter-of-factly talk about it. You know, I'd say, oh, whatever happened to that guy? And he'd say, oh, no, he was killed. Mm-hmm. And it was just so blunt, and from my father, who's nearly a pacifist now, for crying out loud, it's sort of stunning. But no, he was not eager to talk about it in any way, but part of it because I think he just sort of blocked that part of his life out and moved on and had a whole other part of his life. Well,
I would imagine it wasn't blocked out. If what my experience, and more importantly the experience of these soldiers, is any guide, and look, there's a universality to this story in the book I wrote, which would come through, I think, in any war. There are no great headlines here. War is a bad thing, and it hurts the people who are fighting it. There's a real reluctance among the soldiers of this battalion to this day to talk about what they had been through, except perhaps to each other. And I experienced some of that. When I came home, my family wanted to know what it was like, and I really didn't want to talk about it. I did want to write the story.
Right.
And once the book came out, it's interesting. I began getting email after email, dozens into the hundreds, from soldiers saying something along the lines of, Mr. Finkel, I read your book. I came home from war, and everyone wanted to know what it was like, and I didn't want to talk about it, and I can't talk about it. But now I can give people your book, say, read this, and you'll understand what it was like and why I can't talk about it. Those emails mean a lot to me because that's kind of how I feel as well. I was happy to write the book, but it's a difficult thing to talk about.
That must be incredibly rewarding. I don't mean to keep relating this to me in any way, but when Saving Private Ryan came out, and I was a reporter myself, and I watched it as part of a story I did with a Vietnam veteran and a World War II veteran, and these were two men who had never talked about this with their families, and they were so relieved to have someone else tell that story.
To tell it, and to tell it honestly. Right. It's not like I pulled punches. It's not like I was obligated to the soldiers I was with, but there was an obligation to, at that point in that war, get that corner of it recorded and part of the archives of this whole thing. And so here we are, it's a few years later. The other day, President Obama gave a speech in Atlanta to the disabled American veterans where he was basically talking about the end of combat, almost the end of war in Iraq. By the end of the month, we're going to be down to 50,000 troops there, mostly in an advisory role. And so that's where we are on this. But I read. Well, first of all, I read his words later. I couldn't listen at the time because I was out at Fort Riley, Kansas, watching a welcome home ceremony for the latest group of guys to come out of Iraq. 200 some soldiers came back to Fort Riley and mixed into the crowd of people who were cheering and whistling and holding up signs were some of the soldiers of the deployment I wrote about, and they were whistling too. But look, these are guys who were wounded and will be wounded. There was one guy in particular having a hard time hearing because while he was over there, a roadside bomb went off. It was a complex ambush. He was bleeding out of his ears for a long time, got that under control, but he still can't hear. He has traumatic brain injury. He has PTSD. And on it goes. There are more than 1 million people who have served in Iraq, and a lot of them, the war is anything but over. It's going to continue for a long time, psychologically and physically.
Not much time left. We're talking to David Finkel. He's a Washington Post reporter, but we're talking about his latest book, The Good Soldiers, about the 216 2nd Battalion, 16th Infantry Regiment from Fort Riley, Kansas, and they were stationed in Iraq after the surge. Or for the surge, really. Did the surge work? Does the fact that there are 50,000 troops left in an advisory capacity and we're drawing down, does that mean it worked?
Don't you think it's too soon to know? People can argue that it worked. Something seems to have reduced violence. It might have been the addition of 30,000 troops into that big country. It might have been the Anbar awakening west of Baghdad in the Sunni areas. It might have been the ceasefire announced by the radical cleric Muqtada al-Sadr. Maybe it was all these things and more. Maybe history will figure out the proportions. But if you ask the soldiers in this battalion whether what they did worked, some to their death will say absolutely, but many, many of them will say, no, we have no idea what that thing was about.
No, David, we give definitive answers. We don't want to complicate it. Just say yes or no. And then finally, David, is there a couple of things or one thing that you thought maybe going in that I don't want to say surprising because it's such a lame question, that caught you off guard, that you were like, man, I never thought about things. I never thought about that regarding a soldier. I never thought a soldier would think that, talk that way.
Well, in the end, it wasn't the extreme things. Some of those are detailed, of course, in the book. But it was the day-to-day. It was the ordinary. It was the fact that in this area, seeded with so many roadside bombs that kept going off, every morning and every evening, the soldiers would put on their gear, and they'd get in a convoy, and they'd go out into it. Really, and it's not that they were unquestioning. They did have questions, but they kept doing it without break, day after day, making these amazing calculations for a 19 or 20-year-old kid, for instance, to sit with one foot in front of the other, so when the bomb went off, he'd lose one foot instead of two. And at the time, it struck me as extraordinary, and I think about it every day.
All right, David Finkel, the book is The Good Soldiers. It is out now, and I'm going to read it, and you should as well, David. That was wonderfully described, and thanks for doing it. And I hope you get more emails from soldiers to whom the book matters.
Well, listen, thanks for paying attention to the whole subject. I really appreciate it.
All right.